out, but it's a nice even challenge for both teams, and it's also a pretty well-balanced map too. It never seems like one side is at a penultimate advantage to win any single round just based off of where the uplink or their spawn point is.
Now we are going to get straight into it, and this is to see if Silent Purge can create another upset here today. It would be a huge win if they can get a win over this team in the form of Beginners, the current #1 team overall from what people have seen and what they're able to achieve. But could Silent Purge be on the money today? Could things be going their way? And can they potentially cause this upset to be played out?
Well, let's see, of course. The Silent Purge is going to have to start on the attack this time. So, a little bit of difficulty for them too, or at least it would seem that way with Jet Black. A nice shot from him. Finds a headshot on the Kev. Unfortunately, though, he'll lose one of his own teammates in the process before going down, so it's only an even 1-for-1 trade.
At least here for Beginners, the 1-for-1 trade kind of at least has the benefit for them because they're not the ones having to push into this. They can do some more damage here as Icy Woods tries to spot someone out long range here to get the job done. Now this time around we've got the kiosk building is going to be on the center market where we'll have the uplink set.
And this is the one, for me personally, where I've seen the most uplinks actually happen successfully. Simply because what happens a lot of the time is the defenders stretch out a little bit too much into either the side buildings on the west or the east of the uplink or into the market itself. And just like we had happen in the final round of our last matchup, basically the uplink itself gets cleared without the defenders realizing, and someone's able to rush in from the north and steal it that way. We've had that happen on at least 2 different occasions so far this season. So it's become one of the more infamous one for defenders to try and hold on to. But thankfully, Beginners are playing it pretty close to the chest when you look at the minimap and how they're keeping the remaining 4 players pretty much right next to it. So it's going to be pretty difficult for Silent Purge to even get close to an uplink here. What is Arc doing? It's kind of, some model's going a little crazy.
I was thinking, is he just leaving himself open? He's got himself grenade pinned out, but won't connect with anyone. There's no one close just enough yet. And you can see this very passive, very defensive here from Beginners. But also, it may allow Silent Purge to kind of sneak into this thinking, well, actually, we've got more room to work with than we so think, and maybe they get overconfident with it.
Well, let's see in a moment here. You can hear Jay and RPT discussing right now how exactly they want to approach this. They're trying to figure out how to get across the street. I think they don't have anyone to deal with in Junkyard. It would be a pretty far extension for the Beginners if they decided to defend all the way out here. So they're only really going to have to worry when they get towards where the uplink that we were looking at in our last match over here in the East Courtyard. That's the only contention point. They'll have to be careful of someone from the Beginners kind of holding against them here before they eventually pinch onto the site. And besides that, obviously, you've still got a really split up push here from Silent Purge overall, meaning that if any of these guys get found out and are killed early on, the rest of the push is going to be incredibly weakened by that, as the strength from this push only comes with all 4 of these players staying alive, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially having lost that first player early on, it means that now they can't afford any of these mistakes. You hear the communication going on here for Beginners.
You can see there as well, they got a C4 set up. I don't know exactly where, but Woods 43's got a trigger sitting right up on top of the counter there. And so he's clearly going to be waiting for some type of push to happen. So we'll be curious to keep an eye on nade kills here in the event that someone does get killed by that. Oh, well, he might have just killed himself with it, actually.
It's not how you want to get the job done.
No, certainly not.
Have a chance, though. Silent Purge will be very happy with this. And look, already the smokes are going down here for Beginners. They're going to reposition themselves because they know that, okay, the plan is maybe getting a little bit upset here if this push does come in anytime soon from Silent Purge.
I don't know if, like I said before, I don't know if that was Woods 43 pulling the trigger or Icy Woods himself, but either way, someone killed themselves with a nade and or C4. Besides this, the Beginners are trying to stay very close together. Silent Purge are keeping it so quiet. This is going to be so nerve-wracking for the Beginners, right? Because normally at 1 minute and 16 seconds, the attackers would have at least tried to poke onto the site and you'd have a general idea about what to expect on the execute, but Silent Purge has stayed so quiet. So we'll see how this works out for them as they approach it. You're going to see Jet Black probably run into an issue here in a moment as Smoils is holding this tight angle right up against the wall to possibly stop him as he pushes forward in a second.
Could they become the silent but deadly Purge as Smoils soon will be seeing Jet Black and potentially the second player. First one gets down and killed instantly. He's going in for it. This evens up the numbers, at least in this fight. But Architect, he was ready. He knows where that went down, and he's got to try and refrag onto this, but it's not going to work out. Dr. Killinger pokes up from the top, and he's able to do some solid work here. Smalls getting another as well, and this is where it all falls apart for Silent Purge. RPT's able to down and kill off Smoils, but that still puts it as a 2 versus 1. What can he pull off? Absolutely nothing, as Woods runs round, shooting and spraying. He knew exactly where to find him, and Beginners will walk away with the first win.
So there you go. The Beginners take control of round number 1, as we saw Silent Purge try to do kind of an all-in at the last second, basically. Trying to get as close as possible before being realized, and then jumping onto that point. Didn't really work, unfortunately, for them. You know, it was a really good attempt at the strategy. They got very close to the uplink before they were ever really noticed, but the setup was just so close to the uplink, like we talked at the beginning of the round, for the beginners themselves, that type of execute was never really going to work. They would have needed a lot of utility, and it would have needed to have been deployed like all at once, which when you consider how close they were to the enemies at that point, trying to give out comms for that kind of an execute, besides someone just saying like, go, like really quickly, which again, from the beginners' case, that was like, oh, well, they're going to come now. It would have made it very obvious for them, and while you might have gotten a nade kill or two off of that, just off the fact of the chaos of what would have unfolded there, they still would have been ready for the execute at the end of the day.
I think the interesting part there was how Silent Purge reacted to obviously seeing the team nade go down for beginners, because it didn't make him jump the gun or go forward anything further. They still stuck to what they were playing. I maybe would have liked to see them try and, because you saw it, right? We could have had Ark push out with his teammate rather than just allowing him to go down to try and get that refrag. Instead, Dr. Killinger knew that player is probably going to be focused elsewhere and jumps over the top and is actually able to get the job done straight away. So beginners now have a 1-0 lead, and then we're looking to see if they can snatch away another uplink and make this one of the easiest routes all the way to the grand final.
All right, well, let's get it. Let's see if the beginners are going to be able to pull this off in a 6-0 run to make their way all the way into the grand finals, or if Silent Purge will have a little bit more to say about it, just like they did against Boss Fight in their last match. Because for those of you who didn't join us, if you missed it in the semifinals, well, we missed it here on stream, unfortunately, but we did indeed see Silent Purge being able to successfully take Boss Fight down into the lower bracket in their round 1 game, putting them now into the upper bracket finals here against the beginners. The uplink, of course, will still be in the same spot in the central market, but obviously these sides are flipped. It's just the beginners onto the attack now.
So a completely different style coming out here early on from beginners in comparison to Silent Purge. Going to see them work their way around the northwest outskirts. 4 players from beginners here. One other one is all the way out towards Market Street, just going to be holding that. Good communication already coming in. Jet Black, very close to Icy Woods here, hiding behind the window. Well, they won't have any idea of this, but too much noise could mean that this is going to be a bit of a problem. Does Icy Woods now have an idea? Was communication just given away?
I'm trying to figure out if it was Jet Black or Woods that talked there, because one of these two just like called out something out loud, so it's very obvious for the other one.
Icy seems to have a good idea that this could be going on. He does not want to jump up, because he's instantly going to get obliterated, if that is the case. But there's a big risk if beginners do want to just run around and spray into him.
Here's the thing though, look at the minimap. If Jet Black stays alive right here, and just... Okay, so this might actually be their opponents talking, because there is a huge group. There's up to 4 players right around the corner from Jet Black right now. So he can have a lot of it. Oh, and he knows it too. Nade in the window. Let's see. He's going to try to get one. Goes out for the spam. He does manage to down Woods 43, but the problem is Woods 43 gets the exchange. So ultimately, not a whole lot going to be accomplished there by Silent Purge in the defense as the revive comes back out, and the beginners will go back to full strength. Hopefully, at a minimum, Silent Purge were able to transmit the information, at least, that they were trying to push here from the northwest side of the map.
Huge work there from the Woods brothers, and especially the fact they were able to get the revive in as well. That is key in order to try and make this push work. Smoils, he's still the player further away on Market Street, just looking at where he can poke in here. As the rest of the team now will reposition themselves. They're going to leave the outskirts here of the West Market, and they're going to make their way around closer towards the courtyard and closer to the center market itself. So a different style going to be coming out here in order to just keep Silent Purge guessing where they may be going next. And Smoils, he's not in any rush, with 2 minutes 20 still on the board. He knows there's plenty of time to get the job done, but he needs also to find out potentially where some of these extra players are to pass that information on to his teammates.
So he's going to be sitting back and trying to play as passively as possible. Somewhat in a similar vein of what we saw Silent Purge do in the last round, but it does look like the beginners are going to be trying to actually get their execute going well before the time that we saw Silent Purge attempt to do it previously. So they're sitting back, taking their time with this. With the time itself being quite low, they are going to have to force the issue soon. RPT ready for that push, though, from Smoils. Catches him outright, taking him down and even this up into a 4v4.
Big play coming out there, and that's really going to be helpful to even up the numbers. They're straight away able to get the flush, but now RPT's position will be known. And there was another player from beginners working his way around. It was Dr. Killinger, as you can now see him on the screens. And he's going to go around through Hotel and work his way in. But there is a player, little does he know, close by. It's going to be Button that he's going to potentially be running into. And he's making a lot of noise on this push in, checking the corners, but how wide is he going to go with it?
Dr. Killinger looking for something, looking the wrong way is the only downside to this right now. He's got to check the other courtyard, or the other building, I should say, that leads out from this courtyard if he wants to catch a frag. Even then, it's not necessarily going to present itself so easily. Arc Attack is able to down Icy Woods and take him out. Icy Woods, at the same time, found the trade onto him. So an even exchange just brings us down to a 3v3. Dr. Killinger going for the push inside, making a lot of noise. That player from Silent Purge at the other end should have been able to hear this, or at least notice it. But Dr. Killinger, in the meanwhile, is none the wiser. We've got less than a minute now. A push, and Dr. Killinger lowers his gun. Button picks up an easy frag against him, and now Silent Purge have the advantage, 3v2 with 45 seconds left.
The timing on that one, just 2 players left alive here for beginners. Button, he may have done exactly what was needed in order for Silent Purge to make this a 1-1. Smokes are going to go down, but how much cover is it really going to provide for him? 30 seconds on the board, and beginners, they've got to make a move. They cannot be any slower than this. For that push.
Button's going to continue to hold the extremity here. Not much of a point on that. He will have to move soon. Meanwhile, the beginners have managed to get close to the uplink. Whether they're attempting it or not is yet to be seen. They are actually holding in the corner. Oh, they're going to go for it right now. Did Kev actually sneak all the way in? No, he had to put the tablet away. He thought someone was creeping up on him, and they were. If he committed to it, he might have been able to get it done, but not in this case. Silent Purge successfully hold the market and tie us up at 1-1.
Beginners feeling like they could sneak away with another uplink into this, and that would have been huge considering how many Silent Purge members were alive. Luckily, they kept their wits about them and went back in for it. That will even it up at 1-1, but you've got to say straight away, the push that Killinger was trying to do there, he made so much noise. I guess he was trying to bait him out because he ran and made the noise into the house, came back round, but then it was just a lowering of the gun. He's right in the midst of where the big fight's potentially going to kick off, and he's like, just relax a little bit here, and as he does that, player comes around the corner, finishes him off.
Gotta keep your wits about you, especially with the time being as low as it was and how close he was to the uplink itself. Basically got pushed to the end, and mind you, that player had been waiting for him for so long, so he was fully aware of his position, whereas in Dr. Killinger's case, he never actually saw that player. So I think he had a good idea that someone was there, but he didn't know for certain, and ultimately that's, I think, what ended up killing him, was he thought it was clear. That was certainly not the case, and obviously everything that followed through on that, as once again, they were down on their player for the execute that they really would have needed in order to make sure that that uplink would have happened. So, does end up going down. We are tied at 1-1, and into the third round we'll go.
I'd love to know how much more time was on that uplink. So close yet so far, but Silent Purge, they are not going down without a fight. They are still within this, and they are looking to upset the balance here in terms of where these tables are stacked. As the uplink will move, it'll go over towards the west market.
This is going to mean the attacker's direction is also going to change. They'll more than likely be spawning entirely on the east side for this round and the next one. And out Silent Purge will go. They're back on the attack once again. And as you generally expect for attackers on this uplink point, they're primarily going to fan down to the south, try to push in from the far southwestern extremity of the map, and they'll keep 2 more players trying to slowly vie for control of either the market or the north street to try and pinch the site.
Now, at least for beginners on this one, they've got a little bit more of a close grouped hold here. Not spread out too far, not really focused on the walls. Silent Purge slowly will start to work their way up. We've got Jet Black here, looking around, being cautious for any players that might be pushed up too far. I like the 3-2 split at the moment, though. This could work out very well if they want to cause a bit of a distraction over towards beginners.
More than anything right now, it's about trying to clear out these players on the east side of beginner's hold. It's right across the street from where the uplink is, as those are going to be the biggest hindrance to a successful push here for Silent Purge. Unfortunately, the south area, if you look like directly down to the south and slightly to the left, a little mini market, as I think the players call it, to where the uplink is, that's a bit of a kill box for the attackers. We've seen a lot of times now where someone just, because normally when the attackers push that, they push all together. So we've seen multiple instances now where like a well-placed grenade just instantly kills the entire team's push. And even past that, right? Like, you can see how many people are there. If one nade misses, you can still throw like 2 more. So that's what makes it very dangerous for the attackers to try and push that angle. Because if they get caught there at all, it's just so easy for the defenders to completely wipe them with one well-placed nade.
Plenty of time still on the round, though. Just over 3 minutes now. Beginners. They're not moving anywhere just yet. Completely still held on all their spots. They know exactly where they're looking. They've got the cover and crossfire going on. Silent Purge going to be scared of moving over Market Street though, because it is a bit more of an open area to fight between. We often see smokes used at this point as well to help them get across and give them that cover they need. Just in case anyone from the other side is being a little bit more sneaky and aggressive within it. Waiting for him to walk across.
Besides all this, though, actually a very quiet round for the most part here. No one really trying to take any advanced action. And both teams remaining incredibly patient with their push. As it does look like Silent Purge has opted to not go for that market where the kill box is, and instead try to push the street, which is arguably just as dangerous due to the open nature of it. But they've got a shield player, so they can try to rally behind that and hopefully make this push a little bit easier.
Spotted me.
Oh, shots being taken there by Icy Woods.
You can see the lineup on the silhouette. Looks like it's right on his head. Just straying a little bit too much, so no frag going to be taken this time around here. Arc Attack successfully makes it across over here towards the mini market, where he should have the capability to attempt to push back into the light blue room in a second. Besides this, Icy Woods is still attempting to hold things back and stop any attempt to push the mini market. There's those nades that I was talking about before that the defenders are going to try to send in and just wipe the entire team as they're going to hope they're pushing together. But thankfully, for Silent Purge, they haven't played into that strategy yet. They're playing pretty separate. So any nade is at most going to get them, 2 kills or 1 kill more than likely right now.
And these smokes are so key in order for them to get close. The shots come in, Button's going to be the first one going down, but Jet Black is able to at least turn it around. He won't get the finish off just yet. Kev can hang on for now, but is he going to have a teammate close enough by? Dr. Killinger's the next one to go down, and Silent Purge, they're in a really good spot here, but the revive straight back up into it. Icy Woods holding on the uplink. He's not allowing them to get close, and this leaves it only 3 players left alive for Silent Purge.
Silent Purge, though, making a lot of chaotic moves here that unfortunately the beginners aren't able to read that well. The problem is, though, Silent Purge is also going to run into the same problem if they don't check stuff. They lost 1 more, now 2 players due to unchecked angles, and now it's all down to just 1 more player that's alive, but the same can be said for the beginners as RPT finds another trade. It's down to one of the Woods brothers. Icy Woods catches RPT, looking the wrong direction, and that's round number 2 going over to the beginners. They're on map and series point now by claiming 1 additional round.
Really strong stuff there from Silent Purge when their initial engagement started to happen. It went outside of their favor, but they were able to refrag successfully and hold on to it. They were not allowing themselves to just be pushed around straight off the bat on it, and the fact it went down to a 1v1, very impressive from them. But the beginners, they know what they're doing. They know how to react to stuff like that, and they did manage to hold on to it.
Yeah, very, very well done by the beginners, obviously, to still keep control of that situation after it happened so chaotically. Silent Purge, you can tell they've definitely had to have rehearsed strategies like that multiple times, be able to pull it off with minimal comms. So they knew what they were doing. They knew what the plan was. But like I said, unfortunately, they leave 1 or 2 key players alive in positions where they were trying to push or inside of those buildings that connected the main market to the street on the left side of the map. And as a result of that, they lost 1 player due to one of the guys inside of the market buildings and then across the street. RPT was still left alive, who was able to do a lot of damage over the course of the round and as such attempt to shut things down there, but ultimately failed in the final 1v1.
And we saw Woods as well, holding that uplink at the end was so key because that player ran around thinking it was the chance to get this done and to close it out. Luckily, he was one of the ones that had stuck it out for the longest time. As we will swap over sides once again. Beginners 1 away from taking the win here and moving on to the grand final. But Silent Purge, they could just as easily even it up once again. They had a very strong showing previously on this, and they're showing us here that just because they may be not one of the highest seeded teams doesn't mean they won't go down without a big fight.
Yeah, they're putting up a really, really good match here right now, Silent Purge. Just in terms of the strategies they're bringing to the table and the overall way they're playing this game, this is the makings of a really good team, and this is a massive improvement over what we were used to seeing from Silent Purge in past seasons. They've really made a meteoric improvement here, and it's going to be really cool to see how that develops. Now, obviously, throughout the rest of Season 3, if they manage to make it through and qualify here today, or even through the VRML marker, but in Season 4 as well, as I assume we'll be seeing them back then.
Now, what will beginners change this time around? Obviously, it's a different uplink, which changes a fair few things, but in terms of how they go and try and attack on into this, what are they going to see as the best option? Because Silent Purge certainly showed them that they can be a team that can stand up to them.
Check your game.
So we have 1 player.
Do not throw grenades in that state.
Spoil's trying to make call-outs right now for the team as he goes for a pretty massive rotate here. Was holding Southern Market a second ago, but he's already managed to work his way all the way over towards the southwest corner of the map in a second here. where he'll more than likely commit to the rest of his push, but he'll be doing that alone. That's the thing. He's well off on his own compared to the rest of the team, which is almost entirely joined up right now where the central market uplink point would normally spawn. So they're going for a very different route compared to what Silent Purge took, and a very different route compared to the general meta of how you would attack this point as well. Generally speaking, the majority of your push is going to come from the southern street, not the market here.
Once again, Icy Woods waiting to see if anyone will poke out. He knows the angles of the hole. He's tapping away, hoping that someone might have just been poking out there. But he's also providing a lot of noise and cover fire to keep the team distracted.
A little bit of a distraction to allow them to work their way through so far. Obviously, it's keeping everyone alive, but like I said before, there's not much of a defense set up to stop this just as of yet. The first roadblock they'll run into is this player from Silent Purge that's holding the northern street. And he'll be the one that'll get in the way of them. You can also see there's another player slightly over, closer to the northern street, holding one of the West Market courtyard buildings that might be able to round out here and cause some damage too. So it's not going to be the easiest push in the world for the beginners. A second player splits off, actually, from this market push now, and is also going to work his way over towards the street to join up with Smoils in a second, who is still trying to poke and prod at the mini-market.
He's just pre-firing those angles to see if he can make anything connect to start off with here. 2 minutes left on the clock for these guys, and they've made a bit of headway, but it's crossing the street that is going to be difficult now. 3 players down here in the southwest courtyard.
Oh.
That's not what you want to see. Bit of miscommunication, and it's a straight kill. So
oh, man. That's
no revive.
That's the player they did not want to have die either. That's their northern hold player. So now, look, beginners can just walk right up. There's nothing to stop them anymore from pushing in on the north street, and they realize it. They're going to start pushing forward. Obviously, they're still going to be a little bit timid on this. They don't see the kill feed. They don't know for certain what happened, but they've realized it. It looks like they've pushed all the way forward now, and that's just given them a huge amount of map control off of basically someone overreacting from Silent Purge.
And this is what happens. It's extremely pressured here. Button now in the corner. Could he be a real thorn in their side? He's hidden away, and surely he'll hear them running. He knows to turn around. Going to take a few shots, but Kev's the one to down him and straight away finish him off. This means it's now a 5v3, and beginners have got a huge lead here, and they have gained so much footing into being closer towards this West Market uplink.
They should be able to easily pinch this now. The only thing that's going to work against them is the minute and 10 seconds they have left. Is obviously, this is a little bit surprising that they've been given this amount of control, so they have to try and get the communication out somehow and work together on this. But SPJ is going to take a little bit of a hit. You can see him going for the quick inject there into the arm. This little heal him back up to full HP. They know where he is now for certain. Those few shots connecting. And he's going to have to play extra careful as a result of this. Really just has to stay alive, though. He's at a pretty crucial point to hold back the rest of the attackers. And also could have a very big swing to stop any attempt at an uplink here. Not that that's really necessary at this point, but stay back, stay quiet. He's going to be able to move forward. Picks up a second frag. Arc Attack also managed to take down Icy Woods in the process, but he also downed Arc Attack. So we're down to 2 players still left standing for Silent Purge. Granted, 1 can be revived. And the beginners have 3 up and running, but again, that timer is going to become an issue. 30 seconds left.
Yeah, you can see it now. Beginners getting a bit more frantic, but great trade-off here. Still doesn't massively benefit Silent Purge. If they can get the revive off, that's going to be huge. But with 15 seconds to go, beginners, they need to pick up this final frag. He is running around at the moment. He could be potentially walking straight into a bit of a death trap. Spray comes out in towards him. The beginners get the job done. And there was 9 seconds left there, John. And yet beginners were still able to pull it out the bag.